Hi everybody, this is Oksana. Since I've been making quite a bit of things with round wire lately, I thought I would remake just kind of a basic cabochon ring. I have one where I have a tutorial using square and half round wire. I'll link that tutorial below if you're interested. But I thought since not everybody has access to square and half round wire, I would remake another similar kind of just basic ring using a tiny little cabochon, but I would use round wire. So because I'm using round wire, this has some weaving to it as well in the ring band. And so if you want to see how I made this little ring, then just keep watching. So the wire that I'm using is this artistic wire gold color 20 gauge wire, and I'm using two pieces that are about 8.5 inches long. This is going to be a pretty small size ring though, so if you need a bigger size, I'll show you what size it ends up being in the end, and if you need bigger you can use longer wires. And then my little stone is super tiny, so I'm going to need to measure it in millimeters. So it appears to be 6 millimeters maybe. It's just a tiny little moonstone, little round one. And then for my weaving wire, I'm going to be using the same color, the same brand of wire, but this is thinner. It's 28 gauge. So you want to leave yourself a little end here, probably about 2 inches. Should be adequate because we're going to use this to secure the stone. And then you're going to grab your weaving wire and you're going to start your weaving pattern. So I'm putting it through those 2 wires just so I can hold the little end there, and bringing it up, which forms like a little loop around the bottom there. And then I'm bringing it up and over the top wire, which forms a little loop around the top wire. And then I'm bringing it up and then all the way down, which makes a loop across both. And then I'm just going to repeat this pattern. I have a video, if you're not familiar with this weaving pattern, I have a video that really explains it like in great detail. I do it over and over in the video so you can really kind of get the hang of this weaving pattern. So I'll leave that video linked below in the description box. So if you need to learn this weaving pattern, you can go ahead and follow that video. But I'm going to do this for as long as you want your ring to be. So once you weave it for a certain amount of time, you can go ahead and take that and bend it around your ring mandrel and see if that ends up, going around whatever size you need it to be. So I'm just going to do this off camera so it's not super repetitive. And then once it's long enough, I'll come back. So once you have a pretty long piece here, don't cut your wire yet, but just go ahead and bend it around your ring mandrel, around the size that you want to make. So that you have a little overlap. I'm just going to trim, that little end that we started with. I'm just going to trim it off, and that tiny little bit of it that's sticking up, I'm just going to pinch it down because this side will be covered up. This is like where the stone's going to go. So this way it's out of the way and I don't have like a million wires going on. But basically, it's going to be 2 wires here and then 2 wires here, and they kind of overlap each other like this. And because my stone is really small, the 2 wires work well, but if you have a bigger stone, you might want to consider adding a 3rd wire because it's just going to hold it better. But in that little overlap, that's where your stone is going to sit. So that's what you need it for. So once you get to this point, you want to give yourself, a few inches, like 4 or 5 inches, and cut your wire because we're going to use it now to connect this little overlap so that it doesn't pull apart So what I like to do is I like to wrap around all 4 of those wires. That's easiest for me because it's pretty hard to get in there and try to do like a weaving pattern. And then once you've done that, you can just kind of squish that down a little bit with your pliers. And before I trim this wire off, it's important to wrap it around just a single wire, otherwise it's going to unravel. So I'm just going to wrap it a few times just around this wire here, and then I'm just going to trim it so the little wire end is kind of here on the inside, so it won't be visible once we kind of bend this wire around the stone. So we have 2 wires here, 2 wires here, just like this, and then we have our little stone that we're gonna place on all of that. And so what we're gonna do with the wires is we're gonna have them go around, so you want the wires they're gonna cross the band. So if the band is here and the wires are up here, they're gonna head down, and then these are gonna kind of head upwards, if you know what I mean. So if I put my stone back in, it's really hard because I have to, oops, and it fell, no. I know it's tricky to see because I'm trying to hold the stone in place, but just continuing with the wire, it's going to go kind of around the edge of the stone, and then these wires on this side as well, you want to kind of pull them tight because you want it to really grip the edge of the stone, and that's what's going to keep your stone in place. And then once they get to the other side, we're going to take them and we're going to put them through the band, through the ring band, and just really tighten them up here. So here it is on the edge of the stone, not too low down because then the stone will pop up. So because it's a cabochon, it's domed, so it kind of gets smaller and smaller as it goes up, the way the edges of it curve. So if you have it up here, it'll prevent it from popping up because this bottom portion is thicker. So then here on the other side, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make sure that bottom is visible, and we're just going to kind of tightly pull, checking again that it's visible. If it's not, just push it up like this. Otherwise your stone will pop out. You don't want it to pop out. And now just kind of bring your wires down. So this turned out to be a pretty good deal of wire, as you can see. So even though my ring is not too big, it'll work for a slightly larger size ring as well. So the wire that is here, the rightmost wire, I'm gonna cut, and I'm going to make just a little curve with it. So I'm grabbing my round nose pliers and I'm making a little loop like this. And then with the wire that's next to it, I'm going to follow along, just kind of go around that little loop, and then I'm going to push it down into the ring band, kind of wrap it around the ring band. So now it's coming around and up, and then I'm going to do the same thing where I'm just going to trim it, and I'm going to make another little curl just in the same way. And here on the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm trimming it. I'm making a little loop. Then with this wire, I'm just kind of following it along. This wire is much shorter. Might be easier to use pliers to just kind of bend it around. And I don't need to trim this because it is already short. So I'm just taking it and making a little loop. And then you can just press these loops down with your pliers, just very gently so you don't scratch the color off of the wire, but so they are flat. If you use like a little piece of cloth on top of the wire before you press it down, that'll protect it from getting scratched with the pliers. And then mine ended up being about a 6 size. So that's perfect because it's for my daughter, so I wanted to make a nice small size. So that's it. That's how you make this ring with round wire and a little cabochon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.